Welcome back to the podcast daily. Doug Lesmerises and Bill Landis on this Monday. You know, Berm and Austin, they were 3 states away. Wisconsin's far, Landis, right?
Wisconsin is deceptively far. It's a little easier if you fly, which those guys did. When you drive, man, you got to go through Chicago. Anytime you got to go through Chicago to get anywhere, it's like adding another day to your trip.
Yeah, it's windy. So Berm, normally here on Monday, is not here today. We're giving him a little break. So Landis and I are going to run through texter questions. We did not get to them on our post-game show. We got to a lot on the post-game show. And we'll just tell you this. We're not talking about Kyle McCord today because we're going to talk about Kyle McCord a lot on the Wednesday Kings of Columbus. We are going to contextualize the Ohio State quarterback situation on that day in every way possible. So we know there is a lot of discussion around Kyle McCord right now. We're not going to do that today. We're going to save it and try to make it smart and incisive and helpful and contextual. So we'll start with this, Landis. This is from a good friend, Lauren, who says, avid listener of the pod starting this season and first-time texter. Welcome, Lauren. I felt compelled to join to say, I forgot how good TreVeyon is. Do you think that's something that on this Monday morning, more than a few Ohio State fans are thinking?
Yeah, because I'm thinking it too. It's making me not rethink so much, but revisit a little bit of the discussion we had about TreVeyon earlier in the year, and how he fits into the rushing plan, and whether or not he should be the lead guy, and how those carries should be divvied up. And this was a nice reminder of like, oh yeah, he's pretty good. He's pretty special, I think, at times. And this was, again, I think maybe that the best example we've seen of that. So I know that I'm feeling that. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are many Ohio State fans out there feeling the same way on Monday morning.
His explosiveness is rare. I look back at his stats from his freshman year, that season when he had 184 carries for 1,255 yards. He averaged 6.82 yards per carry. The only backs in the Power 5 that year who also had at least 100 carries and had a better yards per carry average than him were Devin Achane, who set the NFL on fire in the first month this year before I got hurt, and Braylon Allen, who we saw at Wisconsin on Saturday night. And then it was Trey. So like that's how good he was. He was 8th in the Power 5 in runs of 20 yards or more. He was 6th on runs of 30 yards or more. He was 3rd in the Power 5 as a freshman in 2021 on runs of 40 yards or more. He's rarely explosive. Like, actually, it's not that he's rarely explosive. His explosiveness is rare. I don't like to use the word unique because unique means like one, but like rare, right, Landis? That's the thing I think we're reminded of. I think maybe we've all got to, I just flipped my pen in the air by accident. If you're watching on the YouTube, it's like, man's throwing pens. He's making me throw pens. If you understand what he is, which I think by now almost all Ohio State fans do, the thing that he does is rare. We saw it 2 years ago. We saw it again Saturday night.
Yeah, he's 10th in the Big Ten this year with 12 runs of 10 yards or more, and he's only played in 5 games. Like he missed like almost a month. I don't know why this didn't hit me really until I was writing about him late on Saturday night that he had not played since the Notre Dame game. That was a long time ago, man. Like it's been a while since we've seen him, and that contributes, I think, to the feeling we're kind of discussing here. But if he's going to be that, and honest, like a version of that, not even that in every game, just a version of that. Just like, he's going to give you 4 or 5 back-breaking explosive rushing plays every time you put him out there. I think that's exactly what this offense needs from him.
Let me slide up a question that I had slotted for later in the show. It's from our friend Luke. What was the cheap shot that Trey sustained against Notre Dame? Trey referenced it after the game on Saturday night, and we were talking about it. We were kind of looking for it, and you think you found it, Bill?
Yeah, there's a run in the beginning of the second quarter. It's like 12 minutes or so in the second quarter against Notre Dame where TreVeyon runs inside. He gets tackled after a couple of yards, and he's laying on the ground, and then Maurice Leofau, one of the linebackers for Notre Dame, takes a few steps. It gets a pretty good head start and just sort of dives into TreVeyon, not like on him, like into him, almost like kind of helmet first speared him while he was on the ground. And then TreVeyon pops up and looks a little shaken up and is sort of like pointing to the Notre Dame defense in a way that like I initially interpreted as like first down, but it like wasn't close to a first down. I think he was pointing to him as if to say like, okay, like if that's how we're doing this, I guess we'll recalibrate here. He was not particularly happy. It seemed like on that play. It was like I would almost liken it to like charging in hockey, where like they penalize you on, or I guess maybe don't even do charging anymore, but they used to penalize you on like how many strides you took before you hit somebody, and like whether or not they had the puck and whether or not like it was ill intent. And it at least seemed like it on that play. Like I if that was the play that TreVeyon was referencing, it did to me seem like a cheap shot.
And then upper body stuff, right? It's like, well, if a guy's diving at you, right? I mean, upper body, I don't know. I mean, if there's something in your torso, right? I don't know. Rib.
Yeah, he had it. He had his torso wrapped after practice on Wednesday, like extra padding than like a normal flak jacket. I think a running back will normally wear.
So that would make sense that maybe that's a thing, that there's like a pain threshold. Again, we thought maybe, I think Austin and Berm said like maybe it was aggravated once the initial injury happened. So again, he's back, and you saw what happens when he's back. This is a question about the Ohio State defense. It's from Scott. I keep hearing that this defense is elite, but have we truly played a good to elite offense? I'm not so sure. I hope they show up versus Michigan. So I looked just at like the FEI, Brian Fremo offensive rankings. Again, they're not updated through this past week, but going into this weekend, none of the offenses they faced were ranked in the top 20 in that statistical ranking. Notre Dame was 22nd. Maryland was 24. Actually, Penn State was 17th. So they were in the top 20. None in the top 15. But like a lot of decent offenses, right? Yeah. Penn State, Notre Dame, Maryland, all in the top 25. None in the top 15. Wisconsin and Purdue in the 40s. You know, it's one of those things. Notre Dame clearly has some good offensive pieces. Notre Dame has a great offensive line. They have an experienced quarterback. They have a great running back and some other guys in the backfield. They have a really good tight end. And Notre Dame just dropped like whatever they dropped on Pitt. They dropped 50 on Pitt. So Notre Dame has ability, right? Penn State has some things they do well. They have an NFL left tackle. They have two good running backs. Wisconsin has Braylon Allen. And like, no, they haven't faced an elite offense, I would say. When you look at like the offenses that could be out there this season or in the playoff, Michigan's 2, Oregon's 3, Washington's 4, Georgia's 6, Florida State's 12. Like those are 5 teams. They could meet those teams. They haven't faced any offense that good, but they haven't played all Iowa.
No, certainly not. And Notre Dame, like, by the way, is 5th in the country in plays of 20 yards or more. Like they have been explosive, and they weren't against Ohio State.
Completely took it away.
Yeah, which like I think is a thing. Now their explosiveness is different. Like it's not Washington explosiveness. It's throwing to running backs and tight ends and getting big rushing plays explosiveness. But they're big plays nonetheless, and they didn't really get any against Ohio State. That is probably still to this day the best test that Ohio State has faced as a defense, because while Penn State has some players, they don't have that explosive element. But I also isn't there something to whatever or however the offense you're facing tries to go about its business, you take that away from them.
Yeah.
Isn't that what Ohio State's defense has done every week?
I mean, Penn State was remarkably efficient offensively coming into that game, and then they weren't. You know, Maryland put some points up on people. Now Maryland's kind of fallen apart here on a 3-game losing streak. But again, I understand what the texter's asking. No, they haven't seen Roma Dunze. They haven't seen Bo Nix. They haven't seen Keon Coleman. They haven't seen Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards, and J.J. McCarthy. Like we get. Haven't seen Brock Bowers. But it doesn't mean they haven't seen competent offenses. And the bottom line is, all the offenses they faced looked worse against Ohio State than they looked the rest of the season, I think is fair to say. Yeah. So we do have some handle on it, I think. Yeah,
we do. And like when we get to those games when they are playing perhaps a Roma Dunze or Georgia or even Michigan, which has a pretty good offense this year, like there probably will be an uptick in points and yards, because that's what happens when you play good offenses. It's about, how many stops can you get? How many splash plays can you make? And I would be more encouraged by their ability to do that this year than I think I was really at any point last year.
Yeah, 17 might not beat Oregon. 17 might not beat Michigan. But then the Ohio State offense is going to have. But I don't think anyone's going to drop a 45 spot on their head either.
Yeah.
All right. Offensive wrinkle. This is from Kevin. One simple question. What's the remaining wrinkle the offense has yet to explore that they need to? What do you think, Landis?
I think it was that play that I mentioned in the post-game show, the completion to Carnell Tate. It was 14 yards. Let me find where it was if people want to go watch it. It was second quarter, 2nd and 10. They're in a run look. They kind of run a split zone play, and Kyle McCord is reading a second-level player. I can't remember if it was a safety or a linebacker. That player commits to the run. Kyle replaces him with the ball by throwing a slant to Carnell Tate for 14 yards. And it's just not a thing that they've done a lot, really, under Ryan Day. When Ryan Day does run-pass options, sometimes they're not even technically run-pass options. They're like reliefs that are built into a run play that you kind of make your decision before the ball is snapped. This was, I thought, a pure post-snap read, run-pass option, throw the ball to the second level, which I think, and this is partly taking Kyle McCord's high school film into account, which like could be a little misleading, I suppose. But I think that's a strength of Kyle's, is like making that quick decision, making that read, throwing the ball in a spot where the receiver can run after the catch on like a kind of an intermediate throw. And that might be the first time we've seen it this year, or maybe it's the second time we've seen it. We've not seen it a lot. I've been waiting to see more of those. So I think that is something they can get into more, like intermediate passing, just sort of in general, like quick game in general. But I think that specific kind of quick game is something that can help Kyle McCord maybe even settle in the games a little easier than he has been the last few weeks.
I do think Emeka Egbuka can also become a bigger, more regular part of the run game. He had 11 carries last year. He has 4 carries this year. Xavier Johnson has 16 carries this year. Emeka obviously hasn't played the last 3.5 games, but they were doing some stuff with Xavier. We've seen them do that, right? That I think you could give Emeka 4 carries a game if you really wanted to. Or you could at least do it against Michigan or Georgia or Florida State or somebody like that. Because you were talking about, you sent out a play to our texters about the way Chip Trayanum blocked it on that play. And I think Emeka is very natural at that. And Xavier's fine at it, but I think Emeka is potentially really good at it. And maybe he should have at least 2, maybe 4 carries a game once he's back healthy in every game that matters.
Yeah, I could see Emeka doing it, and I could also see TreVeyon Henderson doing it. I like watching the Purdue game a few weeks ago. All I kept and the way they were using Xavier Johnson, all I kept thinking about was, man, it'd be cool if they did some of this stuff with TreVeyon Henderson, which might be like a larger thought, which is, and they did it a little bit against Wisconsin. Maybe treat TreVeyon more like a slot receiver sometimes, and see where that gets you, because he's a pretty good route runner. Now he had the drop on the touchdown that he probably should have caught. Maybe he doesn't have the sure hands of a guy like Emeka Egbuka, but I think in open space and as a route runner, he's a little underrated. So, and I don't say that as a diss to Xavier Johnson, who I think is an excellent player and has done incredible things for Ohio State. Like, if you want to give him some touches, by all means do so. But those plays where they use Xavier Johnson, I think could be even more explosive if they used Emeka Egbuka and TreVeyon Henderson at times.
They like that play so much they ran into Emeka on 4th down against Notre Dame and didn't make it. So, like, maybe not on 4th down.
Yeah, maybe not on 4th down. They're building stuff off of that too. That it's like an orbit motion, kind of like outside zone play, and they got 25 yards, I think, by like showing that look and then running a counter with TreVeyon instead. And they also tried to do some play action pass off of it that didn't quite hit, but that kind of led to checkdowns. But that is becoming, I think, a pretty important feature of this offense, is that kind of motion with whoever the slot receiver is on that play.
All right, question from Furious. Should Ohio State for the remainder of the season focus on being a ball control, time of possession focused offense, aka Tressel ball? I think a change in mindset could especially help Kyle McCord. Instead of worrying about making a big play or scoring every possession, focus on positive yards every play and moving the sticks. What do you think? And I don't know, can it just be mental? Is it just something you say in a meeting and you call the same plays, or should they actually attack teams differently? Because Ryan Day does talk an awful lot about, let's get 4 yards a carry, 4 yards a carry. He doesn't say, let's make sure we get some 60-yard runs. I don't know. I'm caught in between on this. Where are you?
I'm also caught in between on it. I think it's a really good question, and one I would like to pose to Ryan Day. Maybe this is that week, maybe it's next week, but there probably does need to be a little bit of a philosophical shift, and maybe not always going for the home run when you're throwing the ball. I'm not saying they're necessarily doing that, but I think there's a method of playing offense here that maybe this team needs to lean into a little more. I guess the one thing I would say to that is you have to be a pretty efficient running team to want to do that. And they're not. Like, how confident are you that you're going to get 4 yards every time you run the ball? Because I'm not particularly confident in that. So you'd be setting yourself up to be in a lot of third and mediums and third and longs. Now, I guess your counterpoint to that would be, we'll just throw it for shorter, like kind of do what Penn State has done, while obviously maintaining much more of an explosive element that Penn State will ever have. It's not that goes away completely; it's always there, but maybe there's value in living in check down city a little bit.
And he did. I mean, Kyle McCord did live in Checkdown City a little bit on Saturday night. I think like they're kind of moving that way anyway. Maybe it's better unspoken, although maybe the point the texter is making is like, if put that in Kyle's head, right? That like, which I think leads you to throw the ball away. Just throw it away. It's fine. If it's not there, get rid of it. Live to fight another day, because we're not hell bent on like this play has to be spectacular. So. But we did talk about in the post-game show, like they really aren't built for consistency. They are an occasionally explosive, very good defensive team. And it's a little hard to thread the needle on philosophy on that, because if you take away the opportunity, if you're so focused on ball control, let's not make mistakes. If we have to punt it back to them, we'll play field position. You don't want to take away the opportunities for Marvin to make a great catch and a throw to the end zone, for TreVeyon to get a chance to bust one. So there's a delicate balance, I think, ahead for Ryan Day here. But at least I'd rather do, as long as it's not a toughness conversation. If it's a time of possession, ball control conversation, great.
Yes.
We haven't talked about toughness in like 2 weeks, haven't we?
No, and nor do I want to ever again.
Right.
So, so that'd be great. No, it's fine. I will maybe one more point on that conversation. Because I think Ohio State's version of this has to involve a heavy dose of like shallow to intermediate passing. And the concept that like Ryan Day got this job on was like running mesh on 2018 with those receivers and Dwayne Haskins. That has crept up a little more the last couple of weeks. Marvin scored his touchdown on it against Penn State. He scored a touchdown on it against Wisconsin, and they ran it against Wisconsin like 6 times, which honestly might be the most they've run it in a game like since 2018. Just speaking anecdotally, like I try to track a lot of that stuff, and I've written stories in the past of like what happened to the mesh play. It's coming back, so maybe that's their way of leaning into that idea a little more.
They were doing that in 17 too, right, with JT.
Yeah,
I feel like when Ryan Day got here, like sometimes it's like you just would walk past Ryan Day, quarterbacks coach, offensive coordinator, just be like, mesh,
huh?
mesh. Because like we hadn't seen it before. We didn't know what it was.
We blew our minds with a base crossing pattern.
Mesh. It's like, wow, Ryan Day's like, this place needed a facelift, man. Mesh. And now, like they kind of graduated past mesh. Right?
Yeah.
He meshed Don Brown. And then it was like, well, that's not really going to work anymore. But maybe back it up. Beep, beep, beep. Back it up a little bit. Hey, we're backing up into mesh. Johnny Dixon made money on mesh, right? Terry
McLaurin, Paris Campbell, KJ Hill. They all got paid off mesh.
Yeah. Marvs can make some mesh money. While we're talking about offensive stuff, Cade Stover. What do we think happened with the lack of Stover passing usage? This is from Zach. Did Wisconsin take him away with scheme? Was he not part of the game plan, or was he just not getting open? Landis, you were rewatching. What's the answer? People want to know.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about this. I think on the post game show, or maybe we weren't recording when we talked about it. I can't remember, but I was at least like a theory of maybe he was being asked to stay in and block a little more, than he normally is. So that really wasn't the case. Pro Football Focus has him on the field for 28 passing snaps and running a route on 25 of those. So he only stayed in the block 3 times. I guess maybe like part of it was Wisconsin covering him pretty well. I think maybe a larger part of it was that if you think of like what Cade's done, a lot of it has, and I don't mean this to come off the wrong way, like they do a good job of like scheming him open on like play action passes or throwbacks and stuff like that. And they didn't do a ton of that. They tried to do it on the interception in the end zone. That play was designed. It was like a counter play action play designed to go to Cade Stover, and Cade got kind of like caught up in the wash and like lost his footing and like never got to the spot he was supposed to be in, and Kyle forced it to Carnell Tate. But that was really like the one time it felt like they were trying to design something for Cade and then really didn't do it the rest of the game. So like rewatching it, I didn't think there were a bunch of instances of Cade being wide open and Kyle not seeing him. There may be like one or two where he was there underneath and Kyle probably could have gotten it to him, but he was looking elsewhere. And then by the time he could have gotten back to Cade, like he had pressure in his face or something like that. So I guess like less Ohio State's coaches were maybe a little less intentional about drawing stuff up for him in this game. And I do wonder if that's because he's a little banged up. Like Ryan Day made mention of that after the game, that Cade is hurt and was playing hurt. And I think if you watched him move against Wisconsin, he kind of looked hurt. So I don't know. Maybe they were trying to protect him by not throwing the ball his way, but still keeping him out there as someone you got to pay attention to.
So it's not, is it anything that's a flaw in the plan or a lack of execution that any Ohio State fan should be concerned about, or more of either A, stuff happens, or B, maybe just making sure kind of a hurt guy doesn't have too much of a load in the pass game?
Yeah, I think they came into the year very aware of how many snaps Cade played last year, the wear and tear that put on his body, and that he was not himself by the end of the year, to the point where he had to go to the hospital in the Peach Bowl. So they're trying to guard against that.
Yeah,
I think so. And I'm not saying that that's definitely what this was, but that is for sure in their mind. Like G. Scott played more as a solo tight end in this game probably than he has all year. So that there's a little bit of that going on. But I think mostly it was maybe it's opponent specific gameplay. Maybe they like some matchups elsewhere. Obviously, TreVeyon Henderson was more involved as a receiver. Xavier Johnson had an uptick in touches. And, not everybody can get the ball. But I guess I'm not in favor of any game plan that doesn't have a couple things in it for Cade. So that was a little bizarre.
All right, this is a question about Ryan Day. When will Ryan Day learn to kick the field goal on fourth down? Take the points, man. That's from Brianna. This really came up. Oregon State kind of lost because they didn't kick a field goal at the end of the first half. I think they lined up for a field goal and faked it, like from 25, they would have had to run for 25 yards and a touchdown. I think it was the last play. And then they wind up losing by 3, right? So it's sort of like, and Adam Rittenberg from ESPN, who's just been covering college football forever, had a tweet that was like, that's one of the main differences between college and NFL coaches right now, is like college coaches feel like they don't want field goals anymore. And NFL coaches are much more apt to take them. I think we're all very happy for the revolution that moved football away from, well, it's fourth down. You either got to kick a field goal or punt. Those are the only two things you can do on fourth down. Is it possible sometimes we've gone too far and that Ryan Day has gone too far? And I do have some of the instances on this, but what's your general vibe?
Yeah, I think Ryan Day's having that conversation with himself. I actually wrote about this a little bit at Rivals on Sunday, but in my 5 thoughts off the game was my last thought, like just sort of wondering out loud where Ryan Day is with this, because the question was like, when's he going to realize it? I think he might have realized it after he went for it on fourth down on the first drive and they didn't get it. And then on the next drive, he ran on 3rd and 5 to set up 4th and 2 from the 9 and kicked the field goal.
Yeah.
I think you can probably count on one hand the amount of times that Ryan Day has kicked a field goal from inside the 10-yard line, especially on 4th and short. So maybe I don't know if that's indicative of a change in thought process or not, but it kind of felt like one to me. And they are too. I made note of this watching the Wisconsin game. Like when they get into the red zone, at least in this game, when they got into the red zone, they were trying to score from like the 19 and the 17. They weren't trying to work it down into the low red zone to see if they could punch it in. They were trying to throw it kind of over the red zone, almost into the end zone by the time they got down low enough to score. So maybe that's the thought process now. It's like we're just not a very good low red zone team, especially without the quarterback run package. Let's see if we can't throw it in there, and then if we can't, we'll take the 3.
So the first one that you're talking about was 4th and 3 from the 33. So they turned down a 50-yard field goal, right, to run the play when Kyle fumbled. Is that what we're talking about, right?
Yes.
It was like that, right? So that's So there's different times where you make this decision. So when you're right on the line of like, man, this is not a gimme field goal, right? I understand going for it in that situation. Do you think they should have tried? It's a 0-0 game, early in the game. Do you think they should have tried the 50-yard field goal there? Fielding's been pretty good.
Fielding's been good. He's got a big leg. I think Ryan Day, I don't know if they said this publicly, but I think they are comfortable with Jaden fielding from that distance.
Yeah.
Which like makes the Peach Bowl all the more, frustrating. Because he kicked a 60-yarder, I think, like the day before, like the practice before that. But anyway, he's got a big leg. So I don't know. Like, do you want to be in the business of trying 50-yard field goals of college kickers? Probably not. So I don't have a tremendous issue, I guess, with going for it when it's from that distance.
I think the bigger issue that people are really talking about is turning down almost a sure 3 points, turning down chip shot field goals to go for it on fourth down. So then I think and it's not right now, but it's the 2 times against Notre Dame, 4th and goal at the 1 in a scoreless game. Don't get it. 4th and 1 at the 11, trailing by 4 on the second last drive of the game. Run the play to Emeka. Don't get it, which sets up the need for a touchdown on the last drive. If you kick the field goal there, you're still down, but then you set yourself up to win the game with the field goal on your next drive. And then the Penn State game, up 10-6 late, and 4th and goal at the 2, you don't kick it, and now a touchdown, you're behind instead of now you go up 7. We thought that, we first guessed that at the time.
Yeah.
4th and goal at the 2, that should have been a kick to give yourself a 7-point lead in a game that close. I do think against good opponents, if they're going to play low-scoring games, 3s mean more.
Yep.
I mean, so if Ryan Day, like the idea of like, listen, man, 3s aren't going to win this game. It's like, yeah, they might. With how your defense is playing and the fact that you've scored 24, 20, and 17 in your 3 toughest games this year, those 3s are twice as valuable as if you're scoring 40. So I do think he might need an adjustment to how they play this year. And when he says things like, hey, it's 4th and 2, we got to get that 2 yards. It's like, okay, well, you can't will yourself into doing it. You got to have a play call or an ability to execute that gives you a very high chance of making it. They're 8 of 15 on 4th down this year. So the 15 tries on 4th down is like in the 50s out of 133 major college football teams. Their 53% conversion rate on 4th down is 57th. For example, Georgia is 5 of 6. Penn State is 13 of 16. Michigan is 7 of 10. They're not particularly good at it. So they don't have a tush push. They don't have a guaranteed thing that's going to work. So I think as they get into this, I think when they play Michigan, they might need to take some 3s. So, which is really, I think, what people are asking about here.
Yeah, they did run the tush push twice and converted both times against Wisconsin. So but now, like, do you want to do that with Kyle McCord's ankle? I don't know. Probably not. Which I guess is why Ryan Day doesn't like doing that stuff in the first place. But yeah, I think you're right. I think if you're concerned about your inability to stop people, then I think you are inclined to play for touchdowns, because all 3s are going to do is help you lose by a lesser margin. But the way they're structured right now, it's weird, right? Because I think I've been probably in general just like hypercritical of coaches when I deem them playing coward ball by settling for field goals. But I don't know that I like view this conversation as that. This to me feels like smart football. Like take the 3 when you're there. Don't waste scoring opportunities, especially when your defense is as good as this one is. Like, you don't need a whole lot of them. So yeah, I'm kind of there. I don't know. I probably sound hypocritical by being so, but I am there.
No, because I do think, right, a lot of times in life, people get criticized for changing their mind. Like, you're a flip-flopper or you're a hypocrite. It's like, I don't know. I took the available information, gathered it, looked at the circumstances, thought, are they different or the same than what they used to be? And then I possibly changed my opinion based on the circumstances. So if this is a high-flying offense that can't stop anybody on defense and they're playing in the 40s, what's the point of field goals? This team? 3s might get to the national title game. Yep. So I do think it's worth a readjustment, and I think there's a question to be phrased in there to Ryan Day. We did a survey. We're going to do a couple rapid fire questions at the end, but results of the survey from our tech subscribers. I don't think every single tech subscriber is still getting every single survey. And I am nearly at the point of driving to wherever the headquarters are of the tech subscription service and pounding on the door. They have been responsive. That just hasn't been completely fixed. We will make you whole. If you're a texter listening to this and you're banging your head against the wall, I'm right there with you, and I'm going to get it fixed. It's on me, and I apologize. But we did get a decent amount of answers. If you want to be a tech subscriber, everything else works. What am I going to do? Lie?
Yeah.
If the information's good, we're having a good time, we're having fun. The surveys aren't getting everybody. So I can't lie. I didn't shave today. You can see my gray beard. I'm not going to tell you I shaved. I didn't shave. 614-662-45. The YouTube channel is much more revealing about everything, Landis. You can't hide on YouTube. Podcast, you can hide a little bit. Can't hide from texters, though. 614-662-4509 if you want to join. 2-week free trial. We'll get it fixed, I promise. Rate Ohio State's performance against Wisconsin, scale of 1 to 10. 10 is good, 1 is bad. What do you think the result was, Landis?
6.
6.55. It's hard to get an 8 or a 9 out of like it's okay. Like I'm not here to tell people how to think. It's a pretty solid win, and there's 8 teams out of 133 that are undefeated, and there's 5 in the Power 5 that are undefeated, and Ohio State has the best strength of record, the toughest schedule out of anybody. They're going to be 1 or 2 in the playoff rankings. They're number 3 in both polls. So, again, I wish we could go back in time. We should do a thing in this offseason where we should just relive the 2002 season, ask everybody to wipe their memories. We'll Men in Black them. Bang, you're wiped. And then we'll watch every game. And after every game, we'll be like, man, that Purdue game took like a miracle pass on 4th down. What are they doing? What are they doing throwing a bomb on 4th? They're crazy. What was that thing Brent Musburger said? Anyway, what's your rating? It's like, holy Buckeye, 3.7. And it's fine because you don't know what the end is going to be. But I wish we could. Do you think we could do that? Do you think all 14 games are out there for us to grab? We can get them from Ohio State.
We can get them. Yeah, Ohio State's got them in the archives. Yeah.
Do we actually want to do that now? We're gonna.
I don't know. I don't know that we can get the nebulizer to wipe everyone's memories, but I think we can get the games. Yeah.
All right, 6.55. This one, I have to admit, surprised me. How are you feeling about Ohio State as a national title contender? Awesome. They're the best team in the country. The title's there for the taking. Great. They're as good as anyone and in the top group of contenders. Good. They have a chance, but they need to improve. Okay. Not at a title level now, an outside shot to get there. Bad. A national title isn't happening this year. Awesome, great, good, okay, bad. What do you think, Juan Landis?
Okay.
Oh, look at you. Okay, you're undershooting. Good one.
Oh, nice.
So good. Good's in the middle. Good got 56%. Great got 29%. Okay got 12%. So the great is better than okay. Almost, 2.5 times as much. Bad, 2%. Awesome, 1%. I actually think awesome is not a terrible answer. I think you could look at what they've done, who they are, who they have. They're undefeated. They have 2 very good wins and another pretty good win. They have as good of a defense as anybody and the best offensive weapon in the country. I think awesome is there to be answered, and not many people took the opportunity. I think great is where I would answer. I think they're as good as anybody. I don't think there's anybody that, if, as an Ohio State fan, that you should be fearful of. Like, well, hope we don't play them. So I'm a little surprised that great didn't get more than 29%. But you guessed okay. You're second from the worst. You thought people were like, oh god.
Well, you said you were surprised. That's why.
I just was surprised at the lack of awesomeness.
Yeah, I got.
Do you think awesome's on the table?
I do think awesome's on the table. I like you would be. I think I would say great. I might say good. But I definitely agree with the statement that there's not a team in the country that I would be fearful of.
Yeah.
If I'm Ohio State, there are teams that go about winning in different ways, but I would like Ohio State because of all the reasons you said to match up with basically anybody. Doesn't mean they're going to go 10 for 10 winning those games every time, but I don't think there's anybody in the country that is like worlds better than Ohio State is right now. So I think if you're anywhere between good and awesome, you are you're in a good spot.
I was going to say I don't love responding to what other media members say, but I actually love responding to what other media members say. I saw a national media person who was like, the only 3 teams that can win a national title are Georgia, Michigan, and Oregon. It's like Georgia hasn't played anybody. Michigan hasn't played anybody. Oregon lost to the best team they played. And so it's like, on one hand, people love to talk about how teams haven't played anybody. On the other hand, you're like, well, they look great. It's like, I just like that kind of approach to the season. And then people complain about the way the season is structured or the 12-team playoff. And here we are. Georgia and Michigan have played nobody. It's like, well, I think they're the only ones that can win it all. It makes me want to take my microphone and throw it out the window. What is the analysis of this sport? Well, I mean, Michigan, Bowling Green. For real? Like, we don't take into account at all who anybody's played. Well, I don't know. Ohio State against Penn State. I think they both suck. Do they? Or maybe they're both pretty good and they banged heads for a while. I can't. Why do people analyze the sport that way?
I don't know.
Georgia. Oh, Georgia's back. Which Georgia is back? Is it the Georgia that lost the SEC title game 2 years ago, or the Georgia that won the semifinal by a point last year? Which unbeatable Georgia team has returned? Which one? Because I don't see an unbeatable. Where's the unbeatable Georgia team that is suddenly back? They beat Kentucky. You mean the one that if Alabama's receivers weren't all hurt in the national title game, they probably would have lost again? Or the one where they beat Ohio State when all of Ohio State's players were hurt? Which unbeatable Georgia team is now going to roll to a 3rd straight title? Why do people do this to this sport? Why do they do it? I don't mean to be mad. I do. Actually, I do mean to be mad.
You mad.
Why?
I don't think you're mad. Own it. It's great. I think because it's easy.
It's not true.
because it requires no actual analysis or thought. Yeah, right.
I get concerned. We're trying to launch a borderline national show, right, with Kings of the North. I get concerned because I feel like 95% of college football analysis is stating the obvious. I don't care what anybody says. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best player in the country. It's like, okay. Or hot takes. It's either true to everybody or true to nobody. And I'm worried about trying to be in the middle. And I'm worried that we're not going to be snazzy enough. Got to work on it.
We're going to start a revolution. I can feel it.
The general vibe around Ohio State this season from fans and media is too critical of an undefeated team, too upbeat and optimistic for a team with issues, or just right and what it should be. What did people vote, Landis?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I would say it's our texters. Too upbeat.
Our loyal, dedicated, educated fans. Just right.
Good. Thank you. I'm sorry for underestimating you.
59% just right. 35% too critical. 6% too upbeat. So okay. I'm just like caveating every media interaction I'm going to have. I think I might try to contact Zach Smith this week and ask him why he keeps calling Kyle McCord Honda McCord. And like it's a play on words, right? It's a play on words.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people saying that on Twitter because
no, I know, but there's a lot of people, and then there's a person who's a former coach who hosts a very popular show.
Yeah,
and I find it to be pretty pointed, dismissive criticism of an amateur football player. And I know there's NIL and stuff now, but I find it odd. I mean, fans could do whatever fans want to do, right? Fans don't make any money off this. Fans pay for this, right? Mm. You pay for the right. You buy tickets, you buy YouTube TV or whatever, you get the tech subscription, whatever. You pay for the right to have opinions. But like for those of us who are making money on the opinions, I find it odd. I don't know what that approach is. You know what I mean? And so like, I do think and I think that's rubbing off on some people in a way that I don't like. Is there something in the quarterback competition that has bred people like rooting against the current quarterback because they thought the other guy was going to start? Or, I mean, of course, there's a standard here, and everybody playing and coaching at Ohio State knows it. But I find it to be a little personal going after a player. Coaches are fair game. Coaches make money. So I don't know. I would be curious. I think I'm going to talk about it on the McCord show on Wednesday, the way people are analyzing him. And I'm probably going to talk about the way Zach is analyzing it. And I would like to sort of give Zach the opportunity to like talk about his approach to his critiquing of the team this year.
Fair. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how many crossover viewers we have here. It's kind of a different vibe, right? Kind of a different vibe, which is why
I'm sure we have some.
The Ohio
State. There are
team
Ohio
feels
State
good.
fans that consume everything, and that's what we love Ohio State fans. So
yeah. Where do you think Ohio State should be ranked in the first playoff rankings on Tuesday? 46% number 1. Where do you think they will be ranked? 40% number 2, and only 23% said number 1. So they should be number 1. They will be number 2 is what our text subscribers are saying. Let's do super rapid fire through the last couple questions here. From Jay, when can we start having the discussion on whether Justin Fry is actually an upgrade over Greg Studrawa? Is that a conversation?
Yeah, I think now, right? Like, I think you can start evaluating coaches the second they get here. And I thought Justin Fry did a pretty good job last year with a lot of guys that he inherited from Greg Studrawa, and I think he's having a tougher time this year with some guys he inherited from Greg Studrawa who I think are like out of position or maybe not quite ready for the position that they're in. But like he's the offensive line coach now. Like it's his job to get them ready to play. And not that I think the offensive line has been a disaster, but it's clearly not where it needs to be. So I think that criticism is fair. I don't know that you can make that ultimate judgment a year and a half into Justin Fry's tenure, but I don't think it's an unfair question to ask.
He needs a big recruiting win. He needs like an out-of-state recruiting.
Yeah.
So, there's two things going on here. All right. This is from Will. Regardless of what happens the rest of the season, I feel that Ohio State should make a change on their special teams coordinator. Do you guys think there's any chance this happens, or does Ryan Day just not care about special teams? I think Ryan Day said enough publicly about it that I think it's very possible.
I mean, I thought it should have happened last year. They re-upped Parker Fleming. I think gave him a 2-year contract extension and a raise for some reason. So yes, I think we're at that point. I think their staff is unbalanced. They need to address that imbalance with the staff and put another defensive assistant, full-time defensive assistant on staff and use that spot to do it. So, but I've thought that for like 3 years. So I don't know. I'm not optimistic, I guess, but I agree that it needs to happen.
I asked Ryan Day about it once, and then somebody else asked about it like a week or two later. And both times he of course is not going to say names, but he was more specific in his answer about like special teams needs to be better than I would have guessed. And to me, that's a little bit of an indication that he believes it's not good enough right now. And again, I think we all believe it's not a matter of hiring a different special teams coach. It's a matter of using that spot more wisely and dividing up special teams responsibilities. NBC seems like the best broadcast. This is from the 408. 3 games now, and I'm impressed. Maybe you guys can touch on this on your pod. I think part of it is people are getting used to it, right? So Noah Eagle and Todd Blackledge did the Notre Dame game. Now they also did the Wisconsin game. That's 2 big primetime games, and it just your ears are used to it. I think the game broadcast is pretty solid. I think the stuff around it is not as good.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. But like and I would separate like a big NBC broadcast from a Peacock broadcast because the Peacock broadcast was terrible. But no, I think the NBC has done a nice job so far, both in the Ohio State games and like a few other games that I've watched this year. Like I think Todd Blackledge is pretty good. Noah Eagle seems solid. And they do a good job of like, showing like replays and contextualizing stuff. And yeah, it's good. I like it.
I do think their pre and post game show is trapped in a little bit of sometimes shows get where it's like they're so quick and fast. I think NBC does this on their NFL coverage that nobody has a chance to say anything. Yeah. And it's like I'm not saying the people on there aren't good. Matt Castle is a bit of an odd hire to me. I'm not sure why he's there, but I think
every time I see him, I'm like, what? Yeah. What are you doing here?
It took me 6 shows to figure out who he was.
Yeah, me too.
But I think like Michael Robinson and Joshua Perry, I think that Maria Taylor, I think the people there are good, but it's so rapid fire. You can't really say anything. And then they spent 4 minutes on what you dressed as a kid on Halloween. And it's like, oh man, people really like football. So we wore Halloween
those shows have too many people. Do you think they have too many people?
It's too many people.
Yeah.
Like, give me a host and 2 smart people and let's go. Let's talk football. And wear a Halloween costume while you talk football. That's the sweet
Yes.
spot.
Mm-hmm.
Doug, do you want to take back your prior statements about Rutgers never beating Ohio State? So those prior statements are that after Ohio State beat Rutgers in 2016, 58-0, I wrote that Rutgers will never beat Ohio State. Never. Like before the earth explodes. Since then, Ohio State has beaten Rutgers by 39, 39, 22, 35, 49, 56. That year they beat them by 58. It was 42 and 39. So that they've only beaten them by less than 39 once. 2 years ago, they were only favored over Rutgers by 15.5, and I called it the worst betting line in the history of Vegas and said, like, we don't have real betting yet, but like now when we have betting in Ohio, everyone's going to be addicted to betting because this was such a sure win. It's like a 19-point line right now, and no, I'm not changing because like the whole point is Ohio State like does have some issues, and Rutgers is 6-2 and like is getting a couple top 25 votes, and it's still a 19-point spread. And still, if it happened, it would be like arguably the greatest upset in college football history. And like Ohio State's like slightly vulnerable, and Rutgers is on an upswing, and it's still a 3-touchdown spread. So no, like this to me is almost like as close as these programs could get, and they're still not close. So no, I will stand on never.
I hope you're right. Yeah. No, it's fine. I don't know if I want to live in the world where Rutgers beats Ohio State.
I'm also willing to change never until I'm dead, which who knows when that could be. We have a couple more. We have a really good one I'm going to save, and we're going to end with this. I'm going to turn my camera for Doug. This is from Chris. What Funko Pops do you have on your corner shelf? So I call them the 3 Gs, the big 3 Gs, right? I have Grimace, I have Greedo, and I have Gonzo. And then I also have Mr. Rogers. Nice. So just four heroes, man, right?
Mm-hmm. Did you watch Mr. Rogers when you were a kid?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I don't have, like I watched it, but I don't have like cherished memories. I feel like of watching Mr. Rogers.
And I like the Mr. Rogers documentary. I like the movie when Tom Hanks is Mr. Rogers. I'm all about Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, it's Pennsylvania icon.
Yeah, I think it's because I'm so kind. Like I really relate to him. You know what I mean? That's what it is.
Do you change your shoes every time you walk into your house?
No, I traipse mud into every single room. So didn't learn that lesson. I might wear a cardigan this week though. I like to plan do you plan your outfits like 4 or 5 days ahead?
Yeah, like if I'm going to a thing where I feel like I need an outfit, yeah.
Yeah. Like Tuesday. Don't you need a Tuesday outfit? Go talk to Ryan Day and Jim Knowles?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm planning my outfit. I think I'll have a cardigan for Mr. Rogers. All right, that's it. We went long. Sorry. We'll have a bunch of stuff. Landis, what do we do this week? Tell people what we have coming.
Got Kings of the North coming later on Monday. Doug and I are ranking all 28 teams in the North. The top 14, the bottom 14. Plus, the other stuff you come to expect from that show, including the Brian Ferentz Survivor Show. We'll be at Roosters later on Monday morning. That show will be up later Monday evening, recapping the win at Wisconsin, previewing the game against Rutgers, and then, all the stuff you've come to expect from us. More dailies, snap judgments on Tuesday, snap judgments on Wednesday, the pick show, and bowl predictions, all that stuff coming later this week.
All right. Thanks for letting me hang out here on a podcast daily. You guys will get back to it's just hard with the travel. It's hard with Herm's like trying to analyze a game while he's flying back and doing a million things. So that's why we kind of do this on Mondays. And so we appreciate you guys making us part of your week. We'll catch you on Kings of the North. For Bill Landis, I'm Doug Lesmerises, and that was the Podcast Daily.